Hey everyone, bear with me for just a couple minutes while I finish getting set up here. Let me know if you have trouble hearing me, if I sound too quiet, too loud. I'm glad to hear that. I don't want people to get their hopes up too much. This is going to basically be spreadsheets and copying stuff back and forth and writing up a report. But you'll get to see a little bit about how I put this together and kind of the tools, the way I'm tracking stuff. There's a bit more behind the scenes that probably won't be super interesting, but I can always dive into whatever people are curious about. So I'm going to give it to about 5 minutes past the hour before I start diving into this. Just give people some time to join the chat, try to get an account set up. If you are watching and you don't have an account on Twitch, you can click on sign up, or I think log in the top right, and go to sign up from there. Accounts are free. This is an Amazon provided service, so if you already have an Amazon account, you can't use it directly, but it's still in the family of services, I guess I should say. So I expect this will take about anywhere from half an hour to an hour, maybe a little bit over. Starting out, for anyone who's in here, do you have things in particular that you want me to really go over? I know it's hard to really answer that question without knowing what the process is like behind the scenes, but if you just have certain questions you want me to kind of address while I'm going through the motions here. And we'll just give this a couple more minutes, give people time to join. That's a good question. Quite a few. So I can answer that more specifically in just a second here. Let me pull this information up. So the data, a lot of it gets pulled out automatically. Some is entered manually, some's automatic. What I have, and I guess I can show this real quick a little bit. And I'm planning to give a little bit of a tour before I start writing anything up, so you can kind of see big picture all the stuff that I'm tracking. Let me go ahead and switch this over to the screen now. There we go. So hopefully this will show up okay. If you need me to zoom in, let me know. I can do that. It's always a little bit difficult to take a screen full of information and stream it, especially if you're watching on a mobile device. But how many sources of data do I pull from? So I actually have, I'm a software developer, so I try to automate as much as I can. And I have a series of scripts, programs, that I've built up over the past year and a half. And a big part of what these do is they pull down information from a variety of sources. That includes state data, county data, state dashboards, like the hospital's dashboard that you may have seen on the state website. And it extracts information, mostly just the information that I need to actively display stuff either in a report or on the dashboard. And then it provides in a format that I can easily pull into either of those. So if you work with spreadsheets, you might deal with CSV files, which are comma separated value files. They're just data that a lot of services will provide. And I pull those in for the spreadsheets. Spreadsheets then get turned into data that makes its way into the dashboard. So as for how many different things do I use, let's find out. Don't worry about all the stuff I'm typing here. It looks like 29 different sources get extracted automatically. And that covers things like adult and senior care centers, the Butte County jail information, Butte County dashboard, variety of schools, hospital cases, let's see, skilled nursing facilities, state case information, state hospital information, testing. We used to pull down information on the current tier status and all the numbers that go into that. State vaccine information. Some of these don't get used anymore. We don't have a monitoring tier system anymore, for example. But this is all sort of here for historical purposes. And actually, all the data that I have ever extracted for any of this work is all available. There's a record of all the data every single day since the beginning of this, which could be interesting down the road to somebody. So since we're 5 minutes past the hour, we have a few people watching. I'm going to give you kind of a tour of what this looks like, how I start things off. So everything sort of gets funneled into this one big spreadsheet I have. Now, this spreadsheet is the way that I pull in and track a bunch of data. So, for example, I pull in data from the Butte County dashboard, which contains all the case information, all the numbers for like cases in different age groups, cases in Chico, cases in Oroville, deaths. Everything that I can pull down from that dashboard, I pull it down. So that dashboard is this one. So what I tend to do each day is I first wait until this dashboard gets updated, because this contains the bulk of the information that I'm going to report on. And I will usually wait till about 2:30, 3 o'clock, and then I will start periodically reloading this. I actually have a little browser extension that will let me automatically reload it in like every 3 minutes or something. So I'll check periodically. I'll wait until I see new numbers, wait until they update the date. And once I see all that, I start to prepare the report. At the beginning, I would take this stuff and I would hand write it into a spreadsheet. But now those scripts that I mentioned, those programs, will automatically pull down all this information. It scrapes it, is what we call it. And it will turn it into a file that I can load in to the spreadsheet. So, and that includes all the graph information as well. So every single date on these graphs gets pulled in. So once this has been updated, and it has for today, we can see that the date is correct and I checked earlier that the case count and everything else has been updated. Once that's done, I go into the spreadsheet and I sort of poke it. I tell it, okay, go update. Like, you may have already done it, but go update. And basically I do that by going to the top here. This is on Google Sheets is what I'm using. On Google Sheets, there's an import data command that lets you point to some file someplace, and it pulls it down into your spreadsheet. And so I'm pulling down one of the files that I host on the dashboard, and that's the Butte County dashboard data. And I just put in a little number, and it just forces Google Sheets to go and reload it. So while it's doing that, I'm going to do it for this graph data as well. These are the graphs that you just saw on the Butte County dashboard for cases, probable cases, and deaths. I'm set up to extract more information as well, but these are the only things that I really incorporate from that dashboard in terms of graphs. So those will fill in a bunch of these columns. And this is sort of the master sheet, the big sheet of data, the timeline. This contains everything since the beginning of the pandemic, at least the beginning of data for the pandemic. And this is what I started with. I began plugging in numbers that I could find every single day on the county dashboard and in news articles until the data started becoming more regular. So in here is case information. Get back down here. Case information from the county. And I have the current data from the graph, which tells me all the current numbers, including any cases that are backdated. And then I have the previous day's graph, because the numbers are backdated, so I have to know what days got new cases. You know, if there's 200 new cases, how many of those were yesterday? How many of them were last week, or maybe even a month ago? So by comparing the two, I have these little formulas that will tell me like what the difference is. So I can see, for example, that in today's update, Thursday, September 9th, got 2 additional cases. So I can see that, and I can go, okay, so 111 of these may have been for yesterday, but the 173 that I would have seen yesterday is now 175 for September 9th. I do that for cases. I do that for probable cases. I also have the in isolation numbers. And then I have deaths. And deaths I do a little bit differently. I assume the count is the same each day. And then I have the graph data showing the new numbers. And this lets me a little bit more easily sort of see, okay, here's the start of new data here. And I can plug that number in. If I were to do that, it would go ahead and update, and all these would update, and I can kind of start going through these one by one as I'm writing the information on what days the deaths occurred. And unfortunately, it does seem like there's been a few more, which it's always sad to see. It's not my favorite part of this. On top of that, I have viral testing data. This used to come from the county. Nowadays, it comes from the state. A tricky thing with this is that the last 3 days or so, you don't really get great numbers. I'm going to zoom in case you can't see this. The case info or the testing data for yesterday, and most things are a day behind, by the way. Most data I report on is the previous day's information. We can see the last few days, the numbers are really low. Well, these numbers were really low a few days ago. It takes a little while for some of this information to actually work its way into the data. So when I compute a test positivity rate, it's not completely accurate, but it's in the ballpark. And it's the same thing that the state does. It's the same thing that other COVID trackers do. You just kind of have to be aware that sometimes numbers are a little bit fuzzy. I also have a bunch of vaccine information. This is where I get the information on percentages of population that have been vaccinated, what the vaccination rates look like, how many of those are Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson. Demographics, which I don't report on anymore because they don't really seem to update them that much anymore. Gotta check into why that is, but they moved to once a week, and then I stopped getting data from them. So a lot of that stuff I just kind of ignore now. And then all the hospitalization information. So like this column here comes from the Butte County dashboard. And that used to be more about the residents. And these days it just tends to mirror the state information. And then I get state information, and 114 people in the hospital. That's by far a new record. So I can easily see on here that that's the case, right? I can see, 8 new people in yesterday's data. I have some additional information, like how many are suspected. I don't report on that because people would probably accuse me of inflating numbers. So I don't do that. So I report on total positive, ICU positive, and then by hospital. So Enloe, Oroville, Orchard. And then Enloe's updates. So they've been providing information each day, and I'm now pulling that information in. Not sure why this one isn't updating, but so one thing I do is I do what I'm doing right now. I go through and I make sure that everything's kind of looking correct, like I'm not missing anything. I don't know if I'm missing something here, what's going on, but if I see something like this where like I see, here's a bunch of numbers for today, but I don't have this one, I'll go ahead and quickly jump into the spreadsheet, into the actual sheet that has this information. And I have a lot of these. So you can see how many of these things I pull in. Some of these are data that get pulled in. Some of these are pivot tables that operate on that data to turn it into something I'm going to use in here. Some of it's just graphs for my own reference. So let me get back to hospitals. Yeah, so I'm missing this thing, so let's go find out what happened. Going into the sheet for Enloe, and I can see, well, the number seems like it's fine. It seems like it's there. 9/14/2021. It's today. And that's cell B27. So I told you there'd be lots of spreadsheet stuff going on. B27. So I'm going to kind of try to get Google Sheets to reload this. This happens. Google Sheets gets confused. Just going to see if I can clear out the spreadsheet. Then load it back in again. Sometimes, yeah, see, there we go. Forces Google to recompute stuff. Almost everything in this sheet here is referencing data in some other sheet. ICU bed availability. See, again, I don't have numbers. You can see that's coming from my hospital cases sheet. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump into that, do the exact same thing, force it to reload. If I can figure out where that is in this list. Yeah, there we go. Very exciting, right? Yeah, so now I've got it. Information's all here. So this is a big part of the first stage of any report, is I will just go through and make sure everything looks correct. Make sure that the region data and the age data is all there. Check on these things, make sure these numbers add up. Kind of get a sense. So like I can see, okay, so there are 2 more patient cases I'm going to be aware of. Skilled nursing facilities. And then jail information. So all of this stuff, and then I can record those notable events. So like I could say today's election day, because people are going to be out in droves, right? So that's worth recording. So I have all of that. I actually have a bunch of other stuff that I don't use anymore. There used to be a bunch of statistics that I found from other COVID reporters in the early days that would calculate projections and stuff. None of it really worked out super well, so I don't do any of that now. But still have a lot of stuff for historical reasons. And what happens is All of this stuff gets extracted and turned into a file that my scripts will load in. And my scripts will then take that file and it will turn it into a bunch of other data that I can feed directly into some graphs in the dashboard that I create. So the dashboard that you all see at bc19.live, that's all a custom website. So I'm not using some off-the-shelf software. It's all custom built. And what that does is it loads the result of all this compiled data. And it sticks it right into those graphs, right into those little the counters at the top. And then that's what you see. Courses, I don't actually... there's probably some courses on this stuff. Certainly, I'm sure there's courses on working with data, on writing software. There's plenty of courses for that. Courses on spreadsheets. I'm kind of combining a few different areas of focus here to present the dashboard each day. I've been writing writing code since about 7 or 8 years old, that ballpark. So I kind of mostly self-taught. So I'm not really up on kind of what's out there. But if this is interesting to you, absolutely look into it. There's plenty of like online, not really schools, but like self-educating sort of services. I'm blanking on the names right now. I know them. I've got friends who swear by these. But there's some really good ones online that you can use to learn how to work with data, how to learn to code, build websites, work with spreadsheets. So yeah, if any of this is interesting, look into those. I think you might find it kind of fun to see how you can start fitting these puzzle pieces together. So now that I've got this, and I'll show you the kind of the secret sauce to some of this. I have this reporting helpers slide or sheet, and this is a bunch of stuff that I've assembled in order to try to make my life a little bit easier. So a bunch of formulas that will do things like figure out sort of which row in that main sheet corresponds to today's data I'm going to report on, or just today in general. Which row was like a week ago, 2 weeks ago, a month ago. And I partly use that stuff in order to compute some of the, how many cases did we have a month ago, over 7 days. I can see some at a glance stuff like when I created the dashboard, when the first report was, how many days has that been? This has been blowing my mind lately because it doesn't feel like it's been almost 500 days, but here we are. And then I have a bunch of templates. So what I do when I start off the report, and I'll show you this in just a second, is I actually have this one master template that I copy and paste into Facebook. And then I will go through there and I will either write up stuff or I'll start to replace stuff with content in here. So these are big equations that generate text based on computed data from my main sheet. And this helps ensure that I don't mess up. That being said, I mess up all the time. Usually I catch it before it goes live. But day before yesterday, must have been yesterday, people pointed out that I said 33 new cases, not 333 new cases. You might see in here, I don't have deaths filled in. I do it by hand. And I think I accidentally selected some text, hit backspace, and then grabbed one of those 3s. So mistakes get made. I just try to correct it as soon as I can. So I have this for the top of the report, and this gives me the basic statistics. On weekends, I will expand upon this to show the breakdown over the weekend. Same thing with mortality rates, cases by region, by age. I've got additional stuff I can plug in to show as a percentage of cases during a week. These kinds of things help me a lot when it comes to the end of week reports. Vaccination numbers, and actually I can see right now, this doesn't look right, 0 people. So I can already see that I'm missing some more data. I'm going to have to kind of poke it again. This happens a lot. So I'm going to go ahead and tell it to reload. And there are times when Google Sheet flat out breaks. Google Sheets is it's considered an important product for Google, but one that doesn't get the attention it deserves. If you hear a train going by, sorry about that. We have a train that goes through this town. I'm in Palo Alto, California, by the way. So Google Sheets has bugs on occasion. So sometimes you have to work around those things. But you can see now the numbers are here. So what I will do when I get to this section is I copy and paste a lot of this into the report. I'll look up the previous report, and I'll just do the difference between numbers. Because just like tests, vaccination information gets backdated. So you can't always just simply compare one day to another. At least I can't if I'm going to try to give you an accurate idea as to how many new vaccines were added between my last report and the current one. So there's math involved. I have a little calculator that I can pull up and do things with real quick. And then hospitalization information and everything else. So there's quite a bit. I'm realizing right now this is pulling up from wrong information. I just readjusted this, so I need to go fix this. Pretty sure that is row 67. Yeah, so there's a lot of this kind of stuff that happens too. I don't have a ton of free time available to do a lot of this stuff, so I try to optimize as much of it as possible. And every so often I'll go through here and try to tweak it. And I just did that, and I grabbed the Butte County hospital data, which is behind the state data at the moment. So just fix that. And then I can see here some things like the skilled nursing facilities. And all this information, or a lot of this information, comes from a bunch of these utility cells that I've put together that look up information on that main sheet. I think there's a few people who might be watching right now who weren't here at the beginning of this. So just quickly reiterate. A lot of data comes from a lot of different sources and all gets assembled into the spreadsheet where I track everything from case information to testing, hospitalization numbers, and a variety of computed stats. This is actually public. So if you go to the dashboard, so if you're on bc19.live and you go to sources and data sets, this takes you to all the stuff that I'm pulling in and the source code to my website and all the stuff that computes the data. And you can see all the sources that I've got here and everything that I export, or just about everything. There's a couple things I have to add for schools from this week. So you can actually look at all these, and if you click on here, bc19.live timeline data, Google Sheets, you get to my spreadsheet. So if you're curious about how I'm calculating anything, how I'm assembling information, yeah, click on this. You'll get to go browse around. All right, so that's sort of the high-level explanation. So we're going to start actually writing the report for today. It's a little bit later in the day than I normally would start doing it, but I wanted to make sure we had enough of the data in, because while I can usually depend on the county to have their data in by 4 o'clock, the same can't always be said for schools. And actually, let me jump through this real quick here. I have a spreadsheet that tracks all the schools. That is actually right here. So I track information each day from Butte College, Chico Country Day School, Chico State, everything else. And this is all done by hand. There's not a really good format for most of the schools for me to pull data in, and the update frequencies are so different that I actually have to go and compare by hand. So I compare the current day's data to the previous day's data for each school, and then I plug them in. To do that, I track the information from every single dashboard that's available. So Durham, Orville, Union High, etc. And so I will kind of go through these and I'll reload them periodically, make sure that I'm watching, see what new numbers are there. And you get used to this. Like I can already tell there's been 5 new student cases because yesterday it was 50. And you just start to memorize the numbers a little bit. So I track all of it, and then I will transcribe it. So that's gonna be one of the things that you'll see me do. It's not a great process. It's just kind of what you got. So basically, look at the new stuff, pull up a screenshot of the old stuff, write down what's changed, record it in there, record it in the report, take a screenshot so I can compare tomorrow. So to start off, we're going to go to Facebook. First thing I do is I'll just undo this. So I create a new post and I mark it as a COVID-19 update. And I think that helps it appear in your timeline. I'm not really sure, but they have it. So I click on it. And then I pull down this main template that contains everything that I would put in, like the whole structure of what I would put into a report. I get rid of most of it each day, but it's all here for reference. So I copy and paste that into here. A bunch of stuff. Most of it I'm not going to need. And then I will start plugging the easy stuff in. So I have that reporting helpers tab. Go to the top here, copy and paste this over into here. Now, actually, I have 3 monitors here on my desk, and that usually really helps with this process. But I can't really show that on the stream. So I'm doing all this work on one monitor today. But normally this would be on one monitor, spreadsheet would be on a different one, and I would have some other stuff on a third monitor, plus music playing. So quickly scan this. Everything kind of looks right. I can kind of confirm real quick that my numbers are correct by looking at the 111, comparing that to what Butte County has. Looks good to me. And then my least favorite part, just because of the topic, got to go pull in the deaths. It's all done by hand. So I was showing this earlier, but I first go through and I see kind of where the numbers start to change. And this is where it helps to have multiple monitors going. But I can see, first of all, that there have been, actually I can compare right here, there's been, it's interesting, should be 2 new deaths. But I think I saw earlier, yeah, see 3. So they did a correction. There was a day where they missed one. They listed a number of deaths and they did not have this completely updated. So I'm guessing they fixed that. That's always hard because I don't actually know now how many deaths in each age range. I'll have to like kind of cover it. I'm sure you've seen me do this before. But let's go ahead and start. So we know that there are 2 more deaths. I think it was 221. No, 223, sorry. Start writing that up. I'm going to go ahead and figure out these days. So August 22nd. And then I kind of mark this one. That's the 3rd one on that day. Okay. So let it recompute. August 24th. Okay. So no more numbers over here. It's been resolved. I now know how many we've got for the report. You can see that we're kind of getting back to the territory that we were in November and December, where they all start, like the deaths start to cluster. It's really sad to watch. You can see it if we scroll up. I mean, this was November through December. Look at all this red. Oops, kind of scrolled a bit. Yeah, so we're starting to see this again. Usually it takes a couple of weeks or so for data on a death to come in. There's work that has to be done by the health department. So it's expected that some of these days will fill up for August, and we probably won't see the September numbers for a while. So anyway, I've got that. Next thing I do is I scroll all the way over to the ages. And I can say, how do I want to say this today? $55 to $64 and $75 plus. Hopefully that's clear. If anyone's watching that thinks I have a better way of conveying this, please let me know. I'm always just trying to do a best guess. Oh no, am I gone? Every so often Twitch kind of has a problem. Try reloading. See if that works. And I'll wait to find out if it does. In case you didn't get that, I'm going to type it. If anyone's watching and you can't chat, you'll need to have an account on Twitch. All right, so hopefully reloading is working. Everything looks okay on my end. So I'm going to go through here and just kind of tidy up the numbers a little bit. These all do averages. I have it out to 1 decimal point. If it's 0.0, it's not really worth showing. So this is the information for today, which will be in the report. And then we're going to move on to the next section. Now, I'm always hesitant to put in news. Sometimes there's some interesting things to talk about. Tends to be... It tends to result in more controversy anytime I put up anything. So I often will just leave it out. I know there was a city council meeting last night, but I don't know enough to really talk about it yet. So I'm going to leave this blank for the moment. I know there's no new variant information, so I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of this. But I do have mortality rate information. So we're going to go ahead and copy that from my little helpers slide, or sheet. Keep saying slide. And then from here I plug in those age ranges that I previously recorded up here. So 55 to 64, 75 plus. That looks right to me. Hopefully you can see this. Actually, you may not be able to see it very well. I'm going to make it larger. Oh, too large. Hopefully that helps. I'm sure some of you are on mobile devices. Oh no, I'm sorry. I don't know if you're able to hear me or not. Bear with me, everybody, just for a minute. It's too bad. I hate to see the stream not work for some people. Okay, so anyway, moving on. We're just going to plug in a bunch of this information. Kind of low-hanging fruit, just the easy stuff that I can quickly pop in. A lot of the work these days comes in when I work on the schools. So I make sure to do a quick glance, make sure the numbers seem like they make sense. It's a lot of cases in these age ranges lately. In the 0 to 12. So just going through, copying, pasting, getting rid of sections that don't matter. Here's the first section where I have to actually reach back into previous information. So we're going to start by copying and pasting vaccine information. A lot of the content I have in here is kind of old placeholder. I just kind of keep it, but I usually just overwrite it. So lately what I've been focusing on is just the vaccination numbers and rates. So I'm going to show you part of this, and then I'm going to do some of this off screen a little bit. So where is it? Hold on. There it is. Every time I do a report, it goes on Facebook, it goes on Twitter, and then it goes on my Notion page. Now, Notion's kind of a collaborative knowledge base, wiki document service. Anyway, it lets me record information, access information, write content, compute numbers. And so I actually have, and this is all public, I have a report from every day I've done this. Although apparently I forgot Twitter on a couple of these days. Forgot to fill in the address. But anyway, I can look back on any previous report really easily. So what I will do is look at yesterday's report. And then I guess I can do this pretty easily. I'll show you. So I have the vaccine information for yesterday. And I'm going to plug in these numbers, the difference in the numbers. So we'll take 108,358 minus 108,191, which gives us 167. And I plug in the number. Same thing here, 12851. 12843, right here, gives me 8. So I know there's been 8 more since yesterday's count. 95507 minus 95348. I told you there'd be spreadsheets and calculations. Not the most glamorous of streams, but here we are. So, got this information in. Not a lot of change since yesterday's data here. Vaccination rate's been slowing down, which is really unfortunate to see. I don't provide testing information anymore because now that we've moved to having to track the state data is not accurate when it comes to the past 3 days. It's awaiting pending test results. It's kind of hard to convey in the format I've been using, so for now I'm just leaving it off. But I do mention a test positivity rate at the top of the report. All right. Next up, hospitalizations. Again, we just copy and paste. On Mondays, I do have to tweak this stuff. I have to go through and see, like, how did it compare to Friday's report? What are the numbers like there? And then, like, what were the highs or lows over the weekend? So that you get a better sense of what's happened in those 2 or 3 days since the last data. But we're seeing here 114 hospitalizations. To put that into perspective, November and December, we maxed out at 100. 100 hospitalizations, 18 in the ICU. Right now we're at 114 hospitalizations, 18 in the ICU. That's kind of unbelievable. So anyway, from all the data that we pre-compute, I've got all the hospital informations. I've got Enlo's report from this morning. We can see that since the hospitalization data, which is yesterday's data, that there are fewer patients at Enlo as of this morning, but more in the ICU. It's kind of interesting to track that. I don't really know at what time of day each hospital reports the information to the state. None of that stuff's public. So I just have to do a best guess on kind of how these numbers relate. All right. Bed information. This is an interesting one too. These are ICU beds. I'm told that I'm told that a lot of cases are handled outside the ICU, even severe cases. So it's not always representative of whether they have resources available. But still, you don't want 0 ICU beds. All right. Skilled nursing facilities. Again, we just plug in the numbers. I do need to check yesterday's report. Sometimes, again, data gets added to a previous day or not, or subtracted. So I do want to see, yeah, so yesterday I recorded Riverside Convalescent Hospital, 1 new staff case. If I go ahead and check, I think I will see that that number made it into the data. Yeah, so that would have been this one. I have to compute this based on a handful of days and then trim it down, just based on how the data updates. Everything kind of works differently. Every source of data has their own update schedule, their own quirks. So I kind of have to work with all of it and just get a pattern going. So anyway, I know that the staff case is not new, but these patient cases are. And I will check if there's any new data for adult care facilities. No. Right now, this data has not been updated in a while. The LA Times actually makes this information available. That's where I get it from. But it's been 17 days since the last update. So all I can do is get rid of the section until there's information. All right. Now comes the time-consuming part. Checking all the schools. Now I can tell you it's 4:46 right now, and some of these schools have likely updated, and some have not. So Chico Unified, they've been pushing it back more and more each day. So lately it's been usually about 5:30, which is why my reports have been so late. But I can check the rest. So we're going to go back to a train going by here. Go back to the schools. And I'm just going to go ahead and go in order in my tabs here. So Nord Country School. I think these are the same numbers I reported on already. Let's just verify. Yep, 6 student cases, 1 staff. Don't have to worry about that. Chico Unified. I look here in the corner. They have not updated yet today. And sometimes, like, I will catch these in the middle of an update. Like, they'll put new numbers in. The numbers aren't steady yet. They'll revise them. So I kind of have to make sure that they update the date, and then I still will wait a little bit. Try to check the numbers, make sure things look right, make sure they add up correctly to the totals. But nothing's happened here yet. So moving on to Durham. Last data report that I saw was on the 3rd, and I just reloaded. Nothing new. I'm not sure these numbers are current. I mean, they're not current, but my guess is there's been new cases since these numbers. But I can't report on them, so we have to wait. Oroville Union High. They haven't updated since September. I'm having a hard time with words right now. September 7th. So again, nothing to report. And you get to memorize the numbers after a while. So I can also look at these and go, okay, yeah, those are what I saw yesterday. Moving on. Reload the page. Nothing new today. Same numbers as yesterday for Oroville City Elementary. But I do know that Palermo has new numbers. So when I find, oh, hey, look, even more new numbers. Kind of what I was talking about before. Earlier, if you saw, we were going through these and I saw that there was an update. And there's been another update since. So given the time of day, I'm going to guess this is probably stable now. So I'm going to go ahead and record the numbers, but I'm going to revisit this before I publish the report. So the way that I track this stuff is I keep, and this is just kind of how I have to do it. I keep screenshots. Cursor's doing something weird. Keep screenshots of every update. So yesterday when I did the report, or yeah, it was yesterday, I took the screenshot. So what I'm going to do right now, so I'm going to go ahead and take another one. And this is also really helpful for when I'm coming back later to see if there's been a new update since then. I can figure out, oh, like here are the new numbers for these schools since I wrote this down earlier in the day. So yeah, this is a little bit time consuming here, but I basically just do a side-by-side comparison. And this will tell me, I'll switch this around. This will tell me what's new. So I start off with kind of a quick at-a-glance, check the totals, see that there's been one new staff case, 2 new student cases. And actually, I was wrong. I guess 55 was a number yesterday, so I must be thinking the day before. So they just updated 2 new cases in schools for students. I can see that that was Golden Hills, Palermo, and then Helen Wilcox for the staff case. So what I'm going to do, and this is a little bit easier when I've got multiple monitors to work with. Actually, I'm going to have to do that. I'm going to have to move these to a different monitor briefly. But I'm going to start recording these numbers. I'm going to first do that in the report. This kind of gives me a high-level way of tracking. So I can say, with a screen recording, it's slowing down my browser a bit. Ooh, quite a bit. Hopefully the stream's still going. Let me know if you have any problems. Oh, everything just came in. Okay. 1 new staff case. Oh, this is really slow. Okay, and then Golden Hills School. Cool, thanks for confirming. Yeah, it's just on my end, I guess. Apple announced a bunch of new updates today, and I was really hoping a new laptop would be part of that. Seems to be faster now. Okay, so Palermo School, 1 new patient case. Not patient, student. Kind of mistake you make when you're trying to describe it as you do the work. So I can say 2 new student cases, 1 new staff case. Then what I do is I add this information to my school spreadsheet. And this is what gets pulled into the dashboard. So this poor computer's not happy with me right now. All right, so Helen Wilcox, record the one new staff case. Golden Hills, one student case. Palermo School, one student case. So I do this for each of the schools. There's not always an update. A common question is, you didn't report in the school today. Why didn't you report in the school? And the answer is there was nothing new. So what will sometimes happen is new information will come out just to the parents, but it's not in the school data yet. Or sometimes it will be in the school data, but it'll be after the report goes out. So I also put in staff or population numbers because eventually I plan to include that information on the dashboard. And if you're wondering where I'm getting these from, they're actually just from the screenshot I just took, but it's currently sitting on a different monitor just to make this a little bit easier. Okay, so Palermo's updated, and this will soon go into the school dashboard. And go check out. Let's go reload real quick to make sure there's no new updates. Nope, same numbers. Got Paradise. One new case. It was 34. So same thing. We're going to go ahead and pull up the old information, see what we got. Actually, hold on one second. Take the new information, screenshot that, so I've got a permanent record. Put them side by side. And now I can compare. This is important because it's a little bit harder to really extract this information in a way that lets you see kind of what's happening day by day. Visually, it's just kind of easier. I've thought about writing some tools that would make this process a little more simple for me. I might do it. But it would have to be a solution for every single school because everyone does it differently. So here's something interesting. Looking at these numbers, I see, okay, one new student case at Cedarwood. But I also see a reduction in the staff cases. But then added to non-school campus. So I think they moved a number. It looks like it's probably what happened. They moved a number from Cedarwood into non-school campus. That's always tricky because I don't know which of these Cedarwood staff cases that would be. This is sort of the difficulty with working with this data. Schools, a couple schools work with me and they give me information, they give me updates. Most of the time, I'm just pulling this information from whatever's public. And when I do that, sometimes all I can do is kind of guess as to what's happening behind the scenes. I don't have information on, what days a case corresponds to or what. So there's always a lot of caveats. But we do the best we can. So, going to Paradise here. I need to always add a gap for any weeks that have no information. Actually, that would still be this week. So Cedarwood had one new student case, and then non-school campus had one new staff case. And one of the staff cases from last week was moved. All I can guess, I'm just going to put the latest one. Because again, I don't know. The totals will be correct. The dates might be wrong. But I also don't ever know if a new case that was added was from this past week or, 3 weeks ago. No way of knowing. Not without the schools giving me explicit information on it. Okay, real quick here. Cedarwood population is 229. Non-school is 12. Plug those in. All right, it's one more school down. Do a quick reload, make sure they didn't update it since then. Looks good. Chico State. It was 172, now it's 204. Chico State is tricky. So when you look at some of the schools like Palermo or Paradise, these totals are for the year. At least so far they have been. And that's great because I can just simply compare the number to the previous day's number. Chico State and Chico Unified and Butte College don't work that way. So I have to set up some additional tracking to try to figure out how many new cases are there. So Chico Unified, and if you track this yourself, you know this. They will show you the last 2 weeks of numbers. September 4th, the week of September 4th and 11th. That means numbers can go down. And similarly, Chico State, they don't give you a running total. They give you the current totals. They also give you the recovered, so you can kind of get a total that way. Because this is a pain, I actually have some additional stuff that will help me figure out what are the new case counts. So, first thing we do, we go back to taking screenshots because it's the only way to keep this manageable. And I have to make sure to get the date, make sure to get these numbers here, get the total here at the bottom, 204. Take that screenshot. And you can see what I'm talking about here if I put them side by side. Students went from 84 to 57. So not a running total. It's just how many are current. I don't know how they're calculating current. It's probably just cases in the past couple of weeks. And they fall off. But I don't want to have to do the math on this every time. So I have stuff that's set up to do that for me. So in my Chico State spreadsheet, I don't fill in these numbers. You saw me filling in some of these numbers on the other ones. In this case, I don't fill them in. I do copy and paste from the previous day, though. Ignore that. I have these other ones over here. I can plug in some of these numbers. So I'm going to put this on a different monitor real quick. So current students is 57, current staff is 8, recovered students is 115, recovered staff is 24, current total is 65, recovered total is 139. Hey man, thanks for raiding. We are doing, okay, for everyone who doesn't know what raids are, it's kind of a Twitch thing where when someone finishes up a stream, they can send all their viewers to somebody else. Not Montana, Butte County, California. So I'm currently showing, so I do COVID reporting for Butte County, and I run a dashboard, and I do daily reports. So I'm showing a bunch of people who follow those reports what the process is like for computing the data every single day, all the work that goes into that. So, if you're not from Butte County, the numbers probably won't be too interesting to you, but maybe the process will be. So, okay, so I'm finishing up with the Chico State calculations. So by putting in these numbers, I get the number of new students and the new staff, which automatically end up in here and will automatically end up on the dashboard. So I'm done with that part. Just got to put in the date and the week. What I forgot to do is to actually include it in the report. So, whoops. Cedarwood Elementary. I think that we decided that was a new student case, and then we're not going to report the non-school because that just moved. I'm not going to give a total either because that's pretty easy to read. But we are going to go up to Chico State, put those numbers in. 26 and 6. So 26 new student cases. 6 new staff cases. That's a lot, but they haven't updated in a few days, so that's really over the course of several days now. And then we get to Butte College. Probably won't be anything. They update once a week on Fridays. This is brand new. I mentioned they're also difficult. They only show you the number of cases over the last 14 days and the last 7 days. No running totals. Makes my life a little bit harder, but we can work with it. Then Chico Country Day School. Same numbers as yesterday. We're good. What is this? Oh yeah. I'm also tracking Children's Community Charter School, but their data is from last semester or last school year, so nothing to report. So at the end of that, I will go through again. I'll reload everything, make sure there's not something new. Happens sometimes. You get updates after the report goes out, or a correction to some data. And then the one I'm always kind of stuck waiting on is Chico Unified. Did that number just change? I don't know. But we'll check on this in a bit. I have to wait for the timestamp to be updated. Say the 14th. At this point, though, we have done most of the work. Once I'm really finished with the schools, I'll just get rid of any sections that I haven't filled in. I need to look at the Butte County Jail, and that's here. And nothing for today. It's 13th. So I can go ahead and just get rid of that section. I also get rid of how we compare. I don't do it daily anymore because the school information takes up a lot of time, and it's kind of a pretty manual process. And then I have the wrap-up section, which I will write up something once I'm finished with all the information. And then I'll quickly show you kind of what I have to do after this is done. It's easy enough to put this in Facebook, but then I have to fit it into tweets. And oof, because tweets don't let you put much information in. So I have to start doing things like fitting as much as I can, maybe trimming the content a bit. So what I'll do in this case is I will have the first tweet be about the death information. Copy and paste, or cut and paste rather, everything into the next tweet. Also put a URL in there to the dashboard. Rinse and repeat. Yeah, something like Twit Longer would probably be good. You get used to this. The one problem is that it will cap the number of tweets you can make at a time to 25. And then you have to go post them. And then you have to start adding new ones after those are posted, which isn't really great. But we can do a lot of this right now because I'm not going to go ahead and put the news in here. I might share an article later, but it's divisive. It's about county politics that affects the pandemic, and it's usually a recipe for disaster for the comment section on my posts, so I'm going to not do that right now. You can see here I normally have these little arrow bullet points. That won't fit. So we're going to have to get rid of them. And it's little things like this. If you follow on Twitter, you're kind of seeing kind of a cropped version of my posts, but it's not going to really lack information. It's just going to be structured differently. So we do a lot of this, actually. And then once this is done, and once I have all the information in the Facebook post, I'll publish the Facebook post. I will publish this one, and I will create another, another archived report, standalone report that doesn't require social media, both for my usage and for those who don't use Facebook or Twitter. It's a smaller percentage of the followers, but it's not one that I want to neglect. Some of this is going to be pretty manual, so at the moment, does anyone have any questions about anything? You're going to see right here, total takes up so much of the space. So what I actually do is I have to trim total out. I'm going to copy this, and then this is not something I expect anyone to understand, but we're going to take this, we're going to replace total. I'm going to put it back in my clipboard. Oh, not cat, I'm sorry. Try. Ignore that echo. This is all programmer stuff. There we go. Just like that. Magic. So the nice thing is, once we're at this point, report's almost done. I will have to go and put in the information on Chico Unified once those numbers come in. I want to wait for that because that is the bigger district. It is the one with the most schools. A lot of people want to know what's happening, and I don't want them to have to wait. So I delay my reports these days until Chico Unified reports their information. So sometimes I'll get a lot of this stuff done by about 3 o'clock. And then I'll do my actual day job for a bit, and I'll come back to this when those numbers get posted. I am curious what people may have envisioned all this to be like. Oh, there's actually a part that I didn't show you. Get rid of some of this. I'll show you in just a second what actually happens when I update the dashboard, because I'm sure that's interesting, or at least it might seem like it's interesting. More guitars? Yeah, not so much. Not so much with the guitars. Okay, so just check real quick. Nothing new yet. All right, so when you look at the dashboard, all this data is coming from that master spreadsheet. Well, this is the school dashboard, but the main dashboard. So it's all coming from the spreadsheet that I showed earlier. It's all compiled. It's all taken from the spreadsheet, turned into data that I can feed directly into the graphs. And I'm going to show you how that's done. It's actually easier than you might think it would be. So all this information, all these counts, all these graphs, all I'm going to do, now that I've got the dashboard data in there, I'm going to run this script to pull down all the school information. This is taking it from my spreadsheet, school spreadsheet, turning it into files that are going to eventually go into the dashboard. So it's currently taking all the case information, including all the stuff that we just wrote up. Doing the same thing with the timeline. That's the case information, deaths, vaccines, hospitalizations, all that. It's also going to pull it down. And I'm going to real quick just take a look at the last line of that, make sure the date is what I expect. 13th, yes. Yesterday's data, that's correct. And then do something very similar. And these are all commands that I've written. They're all running programs that do a lot of the heavy lifting for the stuff behind the scenes. But now that I've run those previous two commands, I run this one. And this generates all the stuff that the dashboard actually loads. So we just ran it. Let's reload the page. And you can see now yesterday's data is in there. Remember, we don't show today's data for most stuff. Like case information comes from the previous day. So yesterday is actually correct. That's the 111 new cases. And then the backdated cases go into everything else. Here's all the new age information, all the new graph data. So all that stuff that was on the spreadsheet is now in here. And all I had to do was type a few things. And that's the nice thing about automating this stuff. Likewise, the schools dashboard will also have the new cases. So those 32 new cases from Chico State, those 3 new cases from Palermo, and 2 from Paradise Unified. 2 doesn't seem like it's right, though, does it? I think we decided there was just 1 new case. Oh, it's because, no, hold on. Let me figure out if something went wrong. This is always part of the process, double checking all the work after it goes up. Right, it's because we moved non-school campus in here. That's correct. So we moved it from Cedarwood from that day onto here. Probably would be more correct to switch that date around. So let me actually just let's just go ahead and do that. It's very, very slow right now. Computer's gonna have a meltdown. All right, that should be on the correct day. Not so misleading. I can now like regenerate that data. I do have to wait a few minutes because once you've generated the data from one of these spreadsheets on Google Sheets, once you pull it down the way I do, it won't give you anything new for about 5 minutes. So I will have to wait a little bit. That's not always true, but it's often true. So I just tend to wait. So we are now done with all that stuff. We're just going to be waiting on Chico Unified. And then I can publish the reports. Something I do want to show off, though. Let's go back to the report. If you follow my Facebook reports, you're going to notice a couple of things. You'll notice that I've got couple blank lines between sections. If you were to write up the stuff yourself, if I were just to submit this right now, all these extra blank lines would go away. It would be all crowded like that. It's horrible. The icon helps, but it's still horrible. Facebook will not let you preserve those blank lines, but there are tricks for that. There is a website that I use that, hold on, lets you paste in content. So what I would do is I would take all this, copy it, paste it, and click Format and Copy. And what this will do is every place that you've got multiple blank lines, it will insert these special invisible bits of text. You can't see it, but Facebook's going to respect it. And it's going to allow you to keep those blank lines in there so that you can nicely format your post without it trying to strip all of it away. And so every time you see one of my reports on Facebook and you see that there's some nice separation between sections, I'm actually using this social media formatter tool. It's very, very handy. So I use this every single day for this. So normally I would take that, I'd paste it back in here, but we're not actually done yet because I still have to wait for Chico Unified. There's not a ton really to show at this point other than kind of what you've been seeing. If anyone's come in late and you want to see anything with the spreadsheet or ask any questions, more than welcome to. I'm happy to go over things again. But you've kind of now seen all of the main components of what goes into a report each day. So this is what I do every day, and it takes anywhere from half an hour on the really easy days to upwards of about 2 hours on the really hard days, especially on Fridays and Mondays. Mondays I provide information from over the weekend. Fridays I try to sum up the entire week, and so that does take a little bit of extra work. Can't automate as much of the Friday reports. But yeah, so that's kind of the bulk of this. And then of course I would write up the wrap up, kind of explaining what people have seen or pointing to something that I think is notable for the day. And that's about it. That's the report process. Let's get rid of this though. So if anyone has any questions, anyone's in chat and wants to know anything more, more than welcome to ask. And you'll see I'll go through here and just kind of make sure I've cleaned up anything before I post it. So I think we're looking good on everything except for the last set of numbers from Chico Unified. This is the holding pattern. This is where I just every couple of minutes hit reload on every single one of these tabs and just see if anything new pops up. But my guess is they'll probably have an update in about 20 minutes. I might luck out, might be sooner. But just based on the past week or so. Nobody should feel like they need to stick around and wait for that. But I do appreciate everybody who has come in and who has been so supportive this past year and a half while I've worked on this stuff. It's a lot to do. It's a lot of work. You're seeing the end result of all this. There's source code and software and methodology I've developed to do all this, which I can't even guess at how many hours I put into those things. And all of this stuff is only still manageable because of the wonderful reaction I've gotten from people on every report I've posted. So I want everyone to know how much that really means to me. It's sometimes heartbreaking posting numbers like cases in preschools, elementary schools, kids getting sick with COVID, people dying. So it definitely having that positive vibe in the comment sections has been really important for me. So again, thank you. Happy to answer any questions. Really, at this point, I'm just going to be hitting reload over and over again until numbers appear down here. So that is what the next 20 minutes of my life look like. So I'm happy to talk about anything that people want to know, whether it's about something I've showed you today or something about any other part of the reports that you see, any questions, anything about what I do for my day job, kind of whatever people want to know. So yeah, let me show you. Some of it is automated. So you missed that part, but there are things that I can automate. So I have on here the main spreadsheet that contains just almost everything that I have to pull in. And then I have some of that stuff automated. So I have a bunch of that data that gets pulled into a bunch of cells to compute some things that I want to show to people in the report. And then based on those, there's a bunch of template cells that will take the information, format it the way I want it, and then I can copy and paste directly into Facebook. So that works. That works for the pure calculation stuff. It doesn't work for the schools because every school is different, and they sometimes will change the way they format stuff, and I've gone down that path of trying to automate it. It's not worth it. But all this stuff is pretty easy because I just pull out numbers from the current day's information and I just format it and just copy and paste it. I've thought about taking it another step further and actually putting my full-on template in here that consolidates all this stuff and just spits out one big thing I can copy and paste and then just fill in the rest. But Google Sheets is not a fun environment for writing this kind of stuff. So it's a little bit easier if I don't do that. I do have a template, just text that I copy and paste that has all the structure. So I just do that and I copy and paste these individual ones into the right sections. That so far has just been the better approach for me. But yeah, this helps a lot. I didn't used to do this. Reports took about 2 to 3 hours. And that's a big chunk of my time in the day. I have had some success with getting schools to provide information in a form that I can more easily pull in. So, for example, and I haven't automated this yet, but Nord Country, they just got this to me yesterday, I think. And it's actually like date-based case information. This is wonderful. If every school did this, or every district did this, my life would be so much easier. I've tried to make a case to a couple of school districts, and they've basically said no. But Nord Country School's been doing this, and it's just... I'm going to be able to just automate this whole part. I won't have to think about it. It'll just go right into the report, right into the dashboard. Everything else, though, yeah, I just have to keep hitting reload and just waiting. So I'm not sure I've got much else to talk about here at this point. Hopefully people found that interesting. Or at least gave you, a little bit of sympathy for what I deal with. But it's not too bad. You really get into the routine of these things. It just kind of becomes something you do over lunch. A lot of the stuff is automated. It's just not the schools. But I was showing earlier, I have a whole code base that lets me define things. I didn't really go into this too much, but as an example, I pull in state hospital information, and I've created programs that let me define rules. So like I can say I want to export a CSV file, data you can import into a spreadsheet. It's going to pull it from this state data set. It's going to only match rows that say Butte County. It's going to validate that the results aren't garbage. It starts with the date I expect it to start with. Sort it by the date. Extract certain information. It's like all this stuff gets generated every 15 minutes, and the spreadsheet automatically pulls it in. So a lot of this type of stuff is automated. And then for the more complex things, like Butte County's dashboard, which has just all sorts of information in here, I effectively have to write a whole separate program for it. If you're not a coder, this stuff's all going to be meaningless, but you can kind of at least see the length of this file. Like, this is a constantly page up. It's 2,000 some lines of code. And this is one of many, 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 many files that are like this. All custom designed to go pull the information I need out of county dashboards, state dashboards. I've had to I've had to learn how to reverse engineer certain state dashboards. No information anywhere on the entire internet on how to access the data. I've had to figure it out and write up some of the first documentation on how to do this stuff. So there's been a lot of problems to solve. But yeah, it's in a way it's kind of fun. I like this type of stuff. It's like a big puzzle. Takes a little bit of time from my day job, but that's okay. Fit in where you can. Still waiting on the numbers though. So yeah, seems we still have about 20 people watching, so I'm not going to jump off the stream. I'll keep this going if people want to wait for me to publish the report. And again, if anyone has any questions, like, I'm happy to answer things. But we're just kind of in a holding pattern waiting for this data so I can put it in there. And then once we got it, I can publish the reports. And then we will be done. There is a little bit of extra work that goes into it after that, I guess. On Facebook especially, there's usually a lot of discussion, a lot of questions. So I try to spend some time right after the report answering some things. And I come back every hour or two, answer anything else that's come up. People tend to see it throughout the day. So I will use it kind of as an excuse to take a little bit of a break, answer a few things, jump back off. And then I do it all again the next day. I know some people have wondered in the past, is this what you do full time? Like, is this your job? I've had questions of, do you do dashboards for other counties? And the answer is no. Do you do data and analysis as your job? No. I actually write software development tools, programs that other companies use to build their software. A lot of big names in there. I can't name all of them, but like LinkedIn is an example of one I'm allowed to say. So a lot of companies, when they are building the software that they build, software and services, the apps for your phone, websites, any sort of software, people will use my product as a way of ensuring that the software that they're writing has been looked at by knowledgeable people within their company, usually other software developers on the same team, and make sure that they've signed off on whatever new code, whether it's like a bug fix or a new feature or something. Make sure someone's signed off on it, given approval. Ensure a second pair of eyes have looked over it to try to minimize how many problems might show up in the software in the end. Yeah, that's a good question. So there are tools. The date of an HTML file. I read that as data. Yeah, like what Grim just said. If it's set, an HTML file will have certain what's called headers. For those who don't know, HTML files are web pages. So anytime you look at a web page, that's an HTML file. So when a web server serves one up, it might serve up what's called headers, information that mentions the last date the file was modified, but you can't always determine that. Modification could simply be they dynamically injected some new content into the page, or it might just simply be set to right now, like every single time. So you can't really trust that in the cases that you can't universally trust that, I should say. In these cases, I can't trust it because the spreadsheets don't provide that. But I can sometimes pull down the date, if I can trust that they remember to update it, Chico Unified does update it. If we look at Palermo, we know that they updated cases today, but it still says September 7th, so we can't trust it. And that happens a lot because it's all, it's human error, right? People forget. People are busy. So they forget things. But yeah, because of that, I can't really query a date reliably on everything. We're still just waiting for these numbers to update. I mentioned the software I work on. Just real quick, I'll just show you the website for it. So it's called Review Board. And Review Board is my full-time job, basically. So it's the software I mentioned. It's used by software companies that want to review the source code, the graphics, documents that go into a product. And we've been working on this now since 2006. Been in business full-time for 8 years now. And this was something that was started as a nights and weekends sort of a project, something that I needed for my own work. And it ended up becoming pretty widely used in the industry. And so these days, we work with customers. We sell add-ons to this product. We sell support for this product. And yeah, Grim is a user of it. Grim maintains an instant messenger called Pigeon, which I used to work on back in my college days. And he's been using Review Board for it, which has been awesome. So anyway, this is what I do full time. It has nothing to do with COVID or data. The data stuff's kind of fun to do as a side project because it's not something I get to do in my full-time job. It gives me like new skills to develop. So anyway, this is probably going to be a little while still. Hopefully we get an update today. It's not a guarantee. Or it could be coming any minute now. When that happens, I'll have to do the same thing. Take a screenshot, compare the numbers, try to figure out where those are. It's a little bit harder with Chico Unified because these numbers are only the last 2 weeks, so numbers will fall off. I have to go to the week by week. Oftentimes, the new numbers will be in the column for the week. Some will be in a previous week. And I don't have exact dates, so everything's sort of a guess. It's just kind of the nature of working with this stuff. So, yeah. Not sure I have much more to really go into at this point. Just sort of keeping an eye on social media for the BC19 live accounts while waiting on these numbers. It's kind of a difficult part of the process for me because I want to do something else with my time, but like I can't, It's like it's hard to get into something else when you just have to go reload every few minutes. Sometimes I'll just grab a snack. So what I'm trying to do, though, is get a couple more school districts to hop on board with this. It really helps if a district will work with me. But even if they just provide information in almost any form, at least I can get to it. At the moment, some of the bigger districts that I don't track, they They have not gotten back to me. I've made several attempts to reach out, emails, phone calls. So when somebody wants to know why I'm not reporting on Biggs School District, for example, I have no access and nobody wants to give it to me. So it's going to be up to parents, it's going to be up to teachers to really try to convince the district or their schools to report this information. Google Sheets doesn't really cache, at least not in a way that forces you to reload the whole page. It caches some things, I'm sure, but I can just hit reload and new stuff will come up. I don't have to worry about it showing me something that's just old, which is nice. And then some of the other websites like Durham, they don't use Google Sheets, they just use their own page. And it doesn't cache because it's just not written to. Which is not a good thing either, but makes my life easier. We'll just go through real quick and make sure that none of the other districts have updated something while we're waiting. So far, nothing. Same numbers. I do a lot of this. This is sort of half the report at this point. Yep. Nothing of interest. If anyone's watching and you have something you're curious about, just go ahead and type it into the chat. And I will go ahead and read it on stream. Or answer it on stream. So as everyone knows, though, cases are pretty bad right now. Time will tell if we'll be in a position in the state to be able to put in more safeguards or like new orders like outdoor dining only, mask mandates. That hasn't been an option due to the recall effort. And we will find out after today whether that could be an option again. Butte County, I don't think, has any plans to do anything in terms of new mandates or anything like that. And as we've been able to see, we are, first of all, getting a lot of cases in schools. I mean, look at that. 786 cases. School's been in session for a month. And then just massive number of cases. Case rate's just been terrible. So it's going to take all of us to really try to educate people and try to be on our best behavior. It's really hard at this point in the pandemic to continue to lock down, to wear masks. I get it, but we really need to do that because we're in bad shape. I mean, this is on par with the worst days, just about, of the last surge. And sadly, they're telling us to prepare for more deaths coming up soon, like as they confirm more. So, I mean, we're just going to have to really make sure that we're on our best behavior, because in the end, it takes people to do the right thing. You can have all the mandates you want. It's going to take people. you can also kind of see that our vaccination rates are dropping. This is a real shame. It was so good for a while. But we're not even at 50% partially vaccinated yet. We'll be there pretty soon. Fully vaccinated is going to take a little while still. And you can also see how long our test positivity rates hung out around the 11 and a half level compared to how short it really was in comparison the last surge. So this virus is not really going away. We locked down pretty hard around December. And that helped. We're not doing anything right now. So nothing's changing. And you can see our hospitalizations are at all-time highs. So I'm actually going to make sure to make a note of that in the wrap-up, because that's important. What was the number we just had? 114. Guess there's no guarantee we're actually going to have numbers today. We are going to have a train going by, but maybe not numbers. I'm going to quickly double check that they didn't transition to a different dashboard or something. I don't expect that. You just never know. Nope, same dashboard. So we're just waiting. Probably either be by 6 o'clock or not. But if we hit 6 o'clock and there's no data, I'll just post a report as is. You know, again, it's all people trying to fit in what they can during a day. Always possible they just didn't have time to provide data today. If anyone's interested in this, though, like, you may notice this kind of weird web browser I'm using. This is how I stay sane with work. Most people are familiar with your phone's web browser, your iPad's web browser, maybe Firefox or Chrome on your desktop. This thing's called Biscuit. And Biscuit is a kind of useful web browser for people like me who need to work with a lot of different services regularly. So I have like a work division up here that lets me quickly get to my Gmail, my Asana task tracker, which is what tracks all the stuff we have to do for work, Review Board, the product I work on, which we use ourselves to develop Review Board, and everything else. And then down here for personal, I've got my email, got my Google Drive stuff, all my spreadsheets, all the schools that I'm tracking, and Twitter and Facebook and stuff. And this will remember everything I have open, remember where I was last. So I can go ahead and turn off the computer, turn it back on, come back, all the stuff is still here, which makes it great for this kind of work, since, as you can see, I have a lot of stuff to keep track of every single day. I think it's only for Mac OS, though. I might be wrong on that, but no. If anybody is watching who's on either Facebook or Twitter and you have a question and you're not signed up to ask on Twitch, go ahead and ask me on there, because I'm paying attention to both places, and I can go ahead and answer it on the stream. I know it's already running a bit longer than I thought it would, mostly because we're waiting on Chico Unified to see if they have numbers. But since there's otherwise going to be some dead air, yeah, just feel free to ask anywhere that you can, and I'll pay attention. And there will be a video posted at the end. I'm going to go ahead and actually add back that news section now that I think about it. Go away. I deleted it. Just bring it back. It's probably worth it for people to read this this update, since it is local news. But Butte County supervisors voted 3-2 to keep the local disaster
Butte County supervisors have voted to keep the local.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Auto-playing videos. Scared me half to death. Voted 3-2 to keep local disaster proclamation for the pandemic. So. And I'm just going to keep this very, very simple today. Not weigh in, because, again, that tends to invite more problems for me than anything. Yeah, it's something I've considered doing, is like a difference filter. I mean, my software does that kind of a thing, but it's still more work than I would want to do, because like you still have to go and make sure that you're taking a screenshot of the same size each time and at the same location, and if they change anything, it breaks it. But it's not too bad for me to go and do the side-by-side comparison. It actually doesn't take a lot of time, especially because most school districts, they don't tend to update every day. Chico Unified usually does. Most of the other ones are a couple times a week at most, maybe once every couple weeks. So it's not too bad. But otherwise, yeah, that something like that would probably, like if I were tracking hundreds of these things, I would need to do something like that for sure. Okay, I think we're about to call it on CUSD. Because I feel like even for this page, it's getting kind of late in the day. So we'll just go ahead and skip it. And if I have to go and update later, then I will. Oh, you know what we didn't do, though, is we didn't pull down the new school information from when I fixed the Paradise number. So we'll regenerate all that. It's a good question. So kids are still home. Witness enough lax masking within the schools. You don't feel safe sending back without a vaccine yet, which I don't blame you for one bit. And you have a fully vaccinated but high risk parent at home. Is there a point at which you feel confident that we're done with variants? No. Probably not ever. They don't think COVID's ever going to go away, but it'll probably be safer going forward. So like a big part of why COVID is so bad is we've had, like, our immune systems have no idea what it is or how to deal with it. That's partly why vaccines are important. Right? You wouldn't get into a boxing match with Mike Tyson. That might be a dated reference now, but with Mike Tyson without like at least knowing how to box. So vaccines are going to be important, and it's going to be important to get them yearly. But I am no medical expert whatsoever. But just from reading the opinions of people who are, the expectation is that eventually we'll be more adapted to it. The viruses might mutate to be less of a risk, potentially. That's not a given. But the vaccines are going to be what really, especially in the short term, protect us. It's not, 100% solution. But it helps when more of the population's vaccinated. And that's we need that to protect the kids and protect people who are higher risk. I'm preaching to the choir here. I'm just trying to state the view on that. But no, we're probably not going to be done with variants anytime soon. Now, the question is, what would the next variant be? So Delta is really adept at spreading and infecting people. It's really infectious. We're seeing that, right? We're seeing that locally. We're seeing that statewide, US-wide, worldwide. Let me actually, real quick, show you just how infectious this virus really is. How much rather it's pushed out the other variants. Because the question is going to become, like, if there's something worse, is it going to reach us, or will it even be able to get past Delta? So looking at this graph here, this is a percent, the different variants we've had so far in California. Percentage of sequence cases in a given month that were each strain. So you can see, like, the original strain was 100% because that's all there was, and then we see that go down as B1427 was going up. I think that's which one this one was. Come on, wake up. Yeah, B1427 Epsilon, which for a while was a scary variant. It topped out at about 60%. Sharing the space with some other variants. And then we saw Alpha, which is what was dominant for a while in California. Again, not much more than 60%. And then we get Delta. 98.5%. Like, there's almost nothing else in California that they're seeing. That's just sequence cases. It's a percentage of all total cases, but it gives you an idea as to, like, what's spreading around. And it's just Delta, basically. The needle's not even moving on anything else. So we'll reach a point of saturation where everybody's basically been exposed to it, whether you've been vaccinated or not. Like, pretty much everyone's going to be exposed to it. It'll be harder for it to continue to spread. So we're going to see cases drop off at some point. Whether something else comes in and takes its place, I don't know. If Delta does enough at that point to, if combination of vaccines and Delta does enough to make it harder for another variant to really push its way in, that'd be great. But I mean, viruses mutate in order to be able to continue to infect. So it's just a guess at this point, like anyone's guess. I know that they're aware of two that are potential concerns, and that's Mu and Lambda. I don't think they're in California yet. I don't know if they're getting any traction anywhere else, really, in the U.S. The question will become, like, will we have a new wave from that, or will we not? What comes after that? No. That's why vaccines are just really important. We need to get vaccinated. It's only being at 50% or under 50% at this point in the pandemic is not a way to protect our community. Too many people want to enter the ring with Mike Tyson with nothing but, look how strong I am. I'm sure I can learn boxing in the next 2 seconds. I trust my fists. Okay, no new numbers. It's 6 o'clock. I'm going to call it on the report. So let's go ahead and clean up, get rid of these sections. And I'm sorry if that was a long-winded answer, or if it even wasn't really a good answer. It's so hard to tell. Like we just need to be planning for the worst and then protecting ourselves as best we can for it. Let's see. I want to write about our case rate real quick. Another good resource I recommend is covidactnow.org. Really good tool for kind of seeing the COVID situation across the U.S. and then diving down into individual counties. And you can see on here the average positivity rate is 4.5% for California. The average infection rate is 0.88. However, Butte County, 12.3% test positivity rate, 0.97 infection rate. Now, 9.7 does mean that the numbers have been kind of going down, but just barely. 1 means it's holding steady. It means, in theory, for every person who recovers, another person is sick. So we're just below that. But this fluctuates, right? So it just really depends on what's happened in the past several days. And that's going to be based on testing. I keep hearing that testing is becoming more of a problem locally, which is really concerning because that can throw off numbers. It can mean that people who are sick may not be able to know they're sick. By the way, when I do those, how we compare at the end of the week, that's from here. So, Butte County, and then I can click on any metric I want and see kind of where we are. So, like, hey, Butte County's the 4th highest positivity rate in California. Congratulations. 16th highest case rate. 16th highest infection rate. That's where these numbers come from. This is something I also do by hand currently. It's just a little bit more work to automate it. I haven't spent the time on it yet. I think they actually might have some of this available for me just to download, but I haven't looked into it. Anyway, what I wanted to check was the positivity rate. Kind of see how that's changing. So it has been dropping a little bit, which is good. This is our high when things were hitting new records for case rates and positivity rates, or just case rates, I guess. So we're down, but you can't look at this as like, oh, we're on the way out, because this information right in here can easily change over the next few days as results come back, and then it can start to go back up again. And it's hard to say. This is bad. 95% ICU usage. We know this is old information because it's only 15 ICU patients, not 18. Only 105 hospital. I need to drink some water. Hold on. Too much talking. Hospitalized patients, not 114. You can already see that we massively passed the previous all-time high. Anyway, this is a great tool. If you follow my data, follow this as well. COVID Now is just fantastic. A lot of typos when the computer lags like this. It's because of the streaming. So we'll just keep it simple today. I don't really want to go into a lot of stuff. It's kind of just the same situation we've been in. I also just don't want to preach too much. I've been starting to get a little bit of pushback on the seriousness of COVID recently. Just the occasional person who reaches out publicly or privately. So we're just going to keep this simple for the moment. I do want to just do one last check of Chico Unified data. Nothing. Okay. Cool. Yeah, all the same. So that's that. I'll just show the last final bits of this, I guess. First off, get this into Twitter. And I'll just start over from this section so we don't miss anything. I mentioned earlier that Twitter caps how many tweets you can post at once in a thread like this to 25. And I've been routinely hitting that. So I try to group together sections where I can now. If you follow on Twitter, you may have also seen I used to tag at the bottom of each post with like a 1 or a 2 or a 3 to tell you where you were in the thread. It's just using a valuable text. Can't do it anymore. So almost done. So slow. All right. So I mentioned earlier, I take all this stuff. Actually, first thing I do is I record it for people not on social media. This is using a service called Notion, which I love. Great tool. So I usually go through, like, this all gets munched together. I go through and I make this into a nicer looking report once I've finished everything else. So we did that. It's all in there. Twitter is all prepared. I now take that one tool I mentioned, which lets me nicely format all of this to keep blank lines from getting removed. So you can get like a nice separation between each section. Then I have to do a couple things. I have to go through and, for whatever reason, remove extra spaces after these addresses. I have to go and tag my page in it. It's because people share it. They don't always know where reports are coming from. And this is a way of trying to help people get back to it. A lot of people copy and paste or share, but yeah. So I try to keep the name in here, but I try to link it in case people have it. By the way, sharing helps. I used to pay for ads to try to get people to see the page and see the data, just to try to inform people. It ended up costing a fair amount of money by the end. I've turned it off mostly because it invited a lot of people who didn't like that I was providing COVID data, and they were not shy about letting me know that. So it helps if people share the reports, get more people to try to like the page. I don't do it for any personal gain. I mean, hopefully everybody knows that at this point. But I would love to get more people to be informed. I feel like that's just been a real big bottleneck in the county. All right, so that's all done. Last thing I have to do is I have to remove any of these preview images, because if I don't do that and someone shares thinking that their followers are going to see all this content, well, it's not going to work. Facebook does not share any text by default if there's any image showing up down here, whether that's a photo or a link, anything. In the early days, I had one down there, and it just created nothing but problems. So we have now finished the report. We have preserved all those blank lines. We've fixed up links. We've gotten rid of the preview image, and now I'm going to post it. Which has taken a while. Okay, we're done. I now go here. I record the address to this page. I put it in Twitter. And I post it here. And I can leave it in on Twitter. That won't be a problem. It's just Facebook that strips things away. And we're done. So I can now record those addresses for posterity. And then what I do is I just go through here and I clean this up for this page. I'll usually format it a little bit differently. I've kind of gotten really at a point now where I'm fast at this. So I'm like hitting certain keys just to turn things into headers or links or whatever. So just quickly go through. And then once I'm done with this, I'm done. Like, that's it. That seemed like a lot, but mostly a lot of it was waiting. Or, you know, trying to really show off how things work, describe it a little bit more in detail. But you get to a point where this becomes pretty automatic. You just kind of develop the routine. And we're done. Although I guess I do need to, real quick, re-update the dashboard one last time. Now we're done. Just make sure we got rid of that one extra case. So we're good. The numbers are now accurate as best as can be. So that's that. Last chance for any questions, any comments. Otherwise, I'm going to end the stream. I'm then going to link people to the video. That will be up pretty soon, I think. I think Twitch makes that pretty automatic. And then, yeah, hopefully people found it interesting. I mean, it's spreadsheets and calculators and terminals, as I said, but hopefully you get at least a little bit of insight as to what goes on behind the scenes. Oh, that's good to know. Okay. I will do that. Ugh. I might also download it and put it on YouTube. I think YouTube will actually automatically add closed captioning, which might be really helpful for a lot of people. I've had some requests to get a transcription of this, and I don't have time to do that myself. I've said too many things. But YouTube might be a good venue for this. So I'll figure it out. I'll get it posted. People can share it if they want to. So, but yeah, I appreciate everyone following. Last chance for questions. I'm going to go ahead and stop the stream in just a couple minutes. Oh, that's cool. Very welcome. It's nice to have some company while working on this. Appreciate it. What I left out of the report is all the grumbling. Oh, I do some grumbling sometimes. Like, oh, how come this school hasn't updated yet? Why are the case counts so high? I mostly left that out, but you get a little preview right there. All right, thanks so much. I will be paying attention to Facebook and Twitter. So if there's anything else, let's split the difference. HEREHEAR, or vice versa. So yeah, if there's anything people want to ask after the fact, or clarification on anything, or why are you doing it that way, or whatever, feel free to follow up with me on Facebook or Twitter. BC19.live on Facebook, BC19live on Twitter. Actually, let me just go ahead and post the addresses, because why not? Assuming I don't type them wrong. And then my own personal Twitter is twitter.com/chipx86, where you will get a combination of COVID-related talk, fire-related talk, because I've been trying to help out with fire reporting recently, or fire information gathering. And then random computer stuff, some of which will be completely nonsensical, even to me sometimes. So, if you're interested in that, go ahead and follow me. This particular Twitch channel, you're welcome to follow me here too. I probably won't be doing a lot of this type of work. I might do some work on occasion, but mostly, honestly, it's going to be a lot of Tetris. I like Tetris, and I will stream it sometimes. So if you like Tetris, go ahead and follow me on Twitch. And if you don't like Tetris, you can follow me and ignore me, or don't follow me at all. Either one works great for me. So anyway, thanks again, and I'm going to call it here. Have a good rest of your day.